Good evening and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we're back with another massive show to bring you guys this evening. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video. Let's try and see 300 likes on today's video. And please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right hand corner, on the road to 21,000. So let's see how fast we can achieve that next target on the channel. On the show tonight, we're going to be talking about the battle for a new director of football and running through the potential candidates who could be taking on this role. We'll also be talking about Manchester United's January striker pursuit with a new name now entering the mix. And to be honest with you, it's a name I've never heard of before. So we will be talking about that player. And we'll also be talking, of course, about Todibo and whether we think that he'll be coming in the January window. A bit more on the takeover, lots and lots to get into. As always, get involved in the comment section, get involved in the live chat. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show. So let's start off with the Jean-Claire Todibo story, because I know there's a lot of people in the fan base who really, really want him to come. There's a lot of people who really now want Varane to maybe leave and Jean-Claire Todibo to come in his place. If I'm Jim Ratcliffe, if I'm Paul Mitchell, if I'm whoever the director of football is, I would probably say that would be my first bit of business, would be bringing in Todibo. I think for the price range, we're being quoted somewhere around 35 million euros. That's what's being reported today, which maybe does seem a little bit high considering we're about to have the same owner. Obviously, Jim Ratcliffe owning Nice and also then owning Manchester United partially. You'd expect to maybe get a little bit more of a deal. He is a right-sided centre-back, which is obviously something that we need. We've got Maguire there. Is Maguire good enough? I'm not sure. Varane, I think Varane's going to go. So realistically, the only right-sided centre-back that we will have then in that position, if Varane was to leave, would be Harry Maguire, because obviously Martinez is a left-sided centre-back and so is Lindelof. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think for 35 million euros, I think it would be a good bit of business. Now, there's a couple of different journalists talking about this afternoon, and they're saying that Manchester United are now discussing a January move for Jean-Claire Todibo. The club want to sign a new right-sided centre-back in the January window. Does this mean that Varane's going to leave? We'll have to wait and see. Do I think Varane should leave? I think if Varane feels disrespected, then I think he should go. If he thinks he should be starting every single game for Manchester United ahead of Maguire, then I think he should go. Because I think in any team there should be healthy competition. And you know what? Harry Maguire's come in and he's played well. He has. Whether you like Maguire or not, whether you think he's good enough for Manchester United or not, that's obviously up for debate. I don't think he is good enough, but the past 5 or 6 games, yes, it's been against lesser opponents, but he hasn't put a foot wrong, has he? The big test will be, when we come up against Everton away from home, Galatasaray away from home, Newcastle away from home. Is Maguire still going to be as good then? If he is, then maybe he keeps that place for the rest of the season. If he falls apart and starts giving away goals in those big matches, then obviously people will turn on him very, very fast. And I think bringing in some healthy competition in someone like Todibo is exactly what Manchester United need. So hopefully we get this one done in the January window. I want you guys to let me know in the comments section how much do you think would be a fair price for Jean-Claire Todibo. The story that's coming out this afternoon is saying that apparently it would take somewhere around 35 million euros to get the deal done in the January window. I think that's still maybe a little bit much for me personally. The thing you have to remember is, right, they bought him from Barcelona only 2 seasons ago for 8 million euros. Okay, obviously he came through the Barcelona Youth Academy. Didn't make it in the Barca Academy. He's just got into the French national team. He's played 1 game for France in the at senior level, which was back in September this year. September the 12th was his debut for France. He's got a contract until 2027, which I guess does mean that they do have quite a lot of value left on him. They've got 4 years left of his contract. I would say somewhere between 20 and 30 million euros would be more of a fair price for Jean-Claire Todibo. He's not a serial winner. He's not really won anything in his career yet so far. Only 23 years of age, still has a lot of developing to do. But I want you guys to let me know in the comment section how much would be a fair price for Jean-Claire Todibo. Let me know what your thoughts are, as I always do like to see what you guys have to say. Welcome everybody who's just joined in the last couple of minutes. I will come back to the comment section in a second. So hold on. Everybody get your questions in and stuff. And I will circle back to the comments in a minute if you have anything you want to ask. Let's move on with the next story though. Let's keep things moving. So we've got a bit of breaking news coming out in the last couple of minutes actually about the goalkeeper situation at Manchester United. And I know quite a few of you have been quite concerned about what's going to happen in January. Obviously, no one's even seen this Altay Bayindir guy yet, and obviously Onana is expected to go to the Africa Cup of Nations. Now, there's a story coming out literally in the last 30 seconds, saying that Manchester United are now increasingly resigned to losing Andre Onana to the Africa Cup of Nations in January. It says Onana is concerned he could lose his place as number one to Altay Bayindir. Although Bayindir has yet to play for United, the club's goalkeeping coaches have been hugely impressed by his standard in training since he joined, as has Onana. It goes on to say that Onana has told friends Bayindir is the best backup goalkeeper he has ever worked with, and he knows he may face a battle to reclaim his place as United number one if the understudy does well in his absence. I mean, that's good for us, isn't it? The fact that Onana's considering not going to the Africa Cup of Nations because ultimately he's been so impressed by what he's seen in Bayindir's game, in training and all the rest of it. And he genuinely believes that if he goes off to the Africa Cup of Nations, which will mean him missing 7 games for Manchester United, that he fears that he might not get his place back. And that's what I mean, when I was talking about the centre-back situation. We need this healthy competition. We need this competition where there's somebody as good as the person on the pitch looking over their shoulders. Because ultimately that means, if we get an injury or if somebody in this case goes to Africa Cup of Nations, we know that we have a like-for-like backup waiting to take their place. And I don't have any issue with this. I don't, because for too many years, it's been player power at Manchester United. It's been one player knowing that whatever happens, they're not going to get dropped. You think people like Bruno Fernandes, there isn't anybody as good as Bruno Fernandes waiting to take his place. There simply isn't. Mason Mount doesn't really play in that position. Eriksen, maybe back in the day was as good as Bruno, but at the moment he's a bit past it. And Hannibal, yes, he's exciting, but he's not as good as Bruno, let's be honest. So I think we do need that, that healthy competition in each area of the pitch, and we need to make sure that every single area is competitive. And it's not just that Bruno gets picked every single game purely because he's the only option we have. And I think this is another good example with this goalkeeper, the fact that Onana's looking over his shoulder thinking, this Bayindir guy is really good and he's going to take my place. I think that's healthy and I think it's good. Obviously, Erik ten Hag's going to stick with Onana until that happens, though, because, he was one of his big signings. He cost us, £45 million? So I'd be very surprised if Onana gets dropped for Bayindir in the next couple of months just because he's done well in training. It will have to be, when he's away in Africa Cup of Nations. If he performs really well, then you'd have to keep Bayindir in the team, wouldn't you? Let's see what people are saying in the chat this evening. Let's have a look. Daniel says Edwards just got one over Liverpool. I would love him as director of football. Somebody says I'd exchange Malacia for Todibo. I probably would as well, mate, but they're not the same position, so I don't know. Rajat says Lindelof and 20 million for Todibo. Yeah, I think that would be, to be honest with you, I think 20 million is about how much we should be paying for Todibo. I think giving them Lindelof as well is maybe a little bit much, but I don't know. I think Lindelof's a solid centre-back. Whether he's good enough to start game after game for United, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I get your point there. Maybe we can send another player their way. Maybe they'd be interested in someone like Lindelof, like you suggested. William says, big up, Kieran, love your content. Thank you very much, William. Thanks for the support. Moif says, about the Bruno for 100 million story, don't you think it's enough to sell him? Because the most we are going to get out of him is 2 years, and we have Mount for now. I think we need to sell him. The thing is, right, we need to wait and see what Jim Ratcliffe and the new director of football's vision is for Manchester United, right? They might come in and say, we need to clean house. We need to get rid of all of these older players on massive wages, and we need to bring in younger players. That could happen, and I would 100% back that. Or they might say, we need to focus on people with experience. We need to keep the Brunos, keep the Varans, keep the Casemiros. We've just got to wait and see, because at the moment, we have absolutely no idea which way it could go. It could go either way. They might say we're going to prioritise youth. They might say that we're going to go for, more experienced players. We'll have to wait and see. For me, I would go with the youthful option at the moment. I think we need to start building our team for the future. I think, if we're focusing all of our efforts around these older players like the Maguires, the Varans, the Casemiros, even Bruno to some extent, I think he's 30 this year. Like, what happens in 2 or 3 years, These are supposedly the players in the best moments of their career. Our best players are in their prime right now. So what happens in 2 or 3 years when these people are gone? Like, I don't know. I think it's a question that needs to be asked, and it's something that we need to work out. Muif says, what is Bruno Fernandes' salary? I don't think it's as bad as some of the others. Let me just double check it for you, because I know people like, obviously, what's he called? Rashford and Sancho. They're on like 350 grand a week. Bruno's new contract is for £240,000 a week, so it's still a lot of money. But when you think that Anthony's on 200 and Maguire's on 190, 240 for Bruno is probably fair, considering he's our best player, I would say. This season, Jadon Sancho's on 250 grand a week. Mason Mount's on 250 grand a week. Martial's on 250 grand a week. Rashford's on 300, and Varane and Casemiro are on 350 each. Maybe that's why these players are getting pushed out, you know. Maybe Manchester United want their wage cap to be 300 grand a week tops, and that Rashford's the highest earner. Because I'll be honest with you, right? Casemiro and Varane aren't worth 350 grand a week to us. They're simply not. Varane can barely play one game of football a week. And Casemiro, I think every other game he's world class, and then another game he can be a little bit average. So I don't think either of them are showing me a £350,000 per week player. But let me know what you think about that in the comment section, guys. Do you think 350 grand a week is a fair salary for Casemiro and Raphael Varane? Rajat says we should be looking at 20 to 28-year-olds. Yeah, I think somewhere around that kind of area would be a lot more sensible, because we do need to start planning for the future. At the moment, we're very much in the now. And as I said, what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years when, you know, the Varanes are gone, the Casemiros are gone, Bruno could be, you know, at the end of his career at United, you know, Eriksen will be gone. All these other people are going to be gone. Obviously, Martial will be gone. What's going to happen then? But let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. Let's talk a little bit about the director of football situation then, because there has been a new name who's entered the race to become the new Manchester United director of football. So the two people at the moment who are apparently leading the race, if you like, are a guy, it's obviously Paul Mitchell, and then the other guy is Dougie Freedman, who, I'll be honest with you, I don't know that much about. I really don't. Like, all I know about him is that he's the sporting director, the director of football at Crystal Palace. Have Crystal Palace been that good on recruitment? I don't think so. Like, they bring some good players through their youth academy, but by way of signings, I don't ever really think of Crystal Palace as a particularly good club for signings. Really? Do you? Like, name me in the last 5 years players that they bought for like 5 million and sold for 100, you know, like a team like Brighton do, or, you know, name me players that Crystal Palace have discovered and signed. I can't really think of many. Obviously, they've got people, they had like Zaha and stuff like that, but that was like a long time ago. And I don't know, I'm not that convinced by this person, to be honest. I think if you compare his CV to Paul Mitchell, I mean, Paul Mitchell discovered people like Son and Cuckoo. Who else did he discover? There's a whole list of people that Paul Mitchell discovered, right? Some really, really good players. Whereas this Dougie Freedman guy, I'm not too convinced, to be honest. Let me just have a look if I can see a list of some of the players he's. So I mean, yeah, like it's people like. All right, let's have a look. Let's have a look at his key signings quickly. Where are we? I mean, the fact that I'm looking at his key signings and it's like there's literally nothing coming up. So his two best signings that he's done in the last 10 years, the only ones that he's really kind of been known for, well, he's got 3 players, I'd say, that are worth highlighting, okay? Eze, who's a very, very good player. 20 million he paid for him. And he also got Elise from Reading for 8 million. Both of those people are very good signings, and they probably would sell for anywhere from 50 to 100 million, depending on who's bidding for them. So those are 2 good signings for him. And he also signed Gaya, who is the centre-back, for only 20 million. So he's done a couple of good deals, and they are, you know, a lot mainly players from the kind of championship. William's saying in the chat that he scouted Gaya, Eze, and Elise. Yeah, he's got a couple of players. Yeah, I mean, I'm not that convinced by him, to be honest. I think it would be poor. I do. I'm just not excited about that whatsoever. You know, when you compare Paul Mitchell's record with this Dougie Freedman guy, like there's literally 3 players that this Dougie Freedman guy's kind of been known for. Whereas you look at Paul Mitchell's and it's like literally Sadio Mane, he signed him before he went to Southampton. He signed Tadic, Toby Alderweireld, Dele Alli, Son, Kieran Trippier, Amadou Hadara, Christopher and Cuckoo. Like, he's signed some really, really good players. A lot of players that Manchester United were linked to as well, kind of once they'd made that big move. A lot of the players that we know Ralph Rangnick was really, really interested in signing. So, yeah, for me, it has to be Paul Mitchell. I'll get a poll going for this, actually. Let's see. Please do smash a like on the video, everybody, and please do subscribe, bottom right corner, if you haven't already. Next, director of football. Okay, I'm just going to get a poll set up for you. Dougie Freeman. Is his name Freeman or Friedman? I'll just do that. Right. Okay, the poll is set up. So if you want to get involved in that, please let me know who you would like to be the next director of football. Obviously, Paul Mitchell or Dougie Freeman, who is currently the director of football at Crystal Palace. Right, let's crack on with the rest of the show, though. We've got quite a few more stories to get into. More about Jadon Sancho to bring you, of course. There's a headline coming out this afternoon that Juventus are now ready to offer Jadon Sancho an escape route from Manchester United in January. Representatives from Juventus were in the UK last week and have made contact with United over the possibility of a loan move for Sancho in January. Now, we've had a bit of information come out about this deal, okay? Apparently, Manchester United want as much as 70% of his wages covered. Obviously, as I said earlier on in the show, Jadon is currently being paid 250 grand a week. So they want 70% of the wages covered, which is about 175 grand a week. The story also goes on to say that Dortmund are also considering bringing him back, and also that Saudi Arabia is another possibility in January and in the summer, although Sancho would prefer to stay in Europe at this stage of his career if possible. You know what? I know people will say in the comment section that, you know, we've given him a contract, you know, we have to do whatever he wants, but I just think loaning out Sancho is giving him what he wants, and I just don't think we should do that. Like, I feel a little bit stubborn about this situation. I do. I think he's disrespected Manchester United. I think he's disrespected the manager. He's disrespected the fans. I would rather him just literally just rot in the reserves than, you know, us pay for him to go out on loan, because the fact that we'd still have to pay some of his wages, I just don't like that whatsoever. I don't. Maybe there's more to the story than we know. I always, literally 99.9% of the time, wish our players the best when they move on. But for somebody to ultimately just refuse to play, to call out the manager on social media, I mean, it's just embarrassing. And for me, I don't really care what he wants, to be honest. I don't care whether he wants to stay in Europe, you know? If we can get a transfer fee for him, get rid of him, you know? He was the one who decided not to play. He was the one who decided not to train properly and to turn up late to training because he was playing FIFA till 4 a.m. Like, I don't have any respect for people who operate like that. I don't, especially when they're earning 250 grand a week. I mean, you know, in the UK, I mean, I don't know where everybody watching this show's from, but I mean, in the UK, right, the average salary is like 20 to 30,000 pound a year. He's earning what some people would earn in like 10 years in 1 week, and he can't turn up on time. Like, that's just not acceptable for me. It isn't. I think he's disrespected the fans, he's disrespected the manager, and he's disrespected his teammates. And for that, I don't think he should have a say in it. I think he either rots in the reserves, isn't allowed in the canteen. You know, he has to eat his lunch in the car like we're being told at the moment. He has to eat a sandwich away from everyone else. That carries on, or he goes permanently. It's not, oh, Jadon, what would you like to do? Oh, you'd like to go and spend a bit of time in Turin at Juventus. Oh, okay, then we'll pay for you to do that. Like, I don't think Manchester United, we need to be more ruthless. We need to be like Man City are. Joao Cancelo fell out with Pep Guardiola. He was gone immediately. One of the best left-backs in world football. Fell out with him for whatever reason, and he was gone immediately. Loaned out. And then eventually, you know, I think he's gone to Barca now, hasn't he? And we need to operate a little bit more like that. Alan says, I don't think Juventus can afford him. What else have we got? James says, since Sancho refused to play, can't Manchester United refuse to pay him? Potentially, I don't know, mate. I'm not really that clued up on all of the legal sides of football and stuff, so I'm not gonna speculate about whether Manchester United should or should not pay him. I'm sure they have looked into it, though. I will say that. I'm sure that Manchester United have explored. And maybe he's not being paid. We don't know, do we? We don't know. Maybe we'll find out in a couple of months that he's not been being paid. But I would be absolutely shocked if he's not being paid. I think he is being paid. But let's move over to the story about this striker then. Now, there's a couple of different journalists this afternoon saying that apparently Manchester United are looking for a cheap striker in January, which, I'll be honest with you, doesn't fill me with much excitement. Like, we need a good striker. What's the point in bringing someone in to help Rasmus Højlund if they're cheap and not really even able to do anything? Now, there's a difference between cheap, i.e. Weghorst on loan, versus scouting somebody who's, you know, 2021, getting them for a cheap price and then turning them into a world-class player. I'm up for that. I think that would be a great idea. But, you know, if it was, oh, we're going to bring in someone like Weghorst, or like, obviously not Weghorst again, but you know what I mean, like a Weghorst type signing, I would not be up for that. Now, the name that's being thrown into the mix this afternoon is a guy called Nicola Kristoff. Nicola Kristoff. He plays this football for Lis in Serie A. He plays for Montenegro national team, 23 years of age. As I said, plays in Serie A. Last season, he got 10 goals and 4 assists in 34 games across all competitions. I mean, it's not great, is it? And then the season after that, he got... This was in the Nike Liga. I don't know what that is. I think he's just moved to Serie A. So he was playing in the Slovakian league last season. He got 12 goals and 9 assists in the Slovakian league. This season so far, he's got 4 goals and 11 matches in Serie A, which isn't terrible, is it? But I think we should be looking at slightly better players than, you know, some random guy from Lis who none of us have ever heard of. Like, it's not really up to me. Doesn't really excite me, to be honest. Newman says Jim Ratcliffe is the one who will supply the sandwich to Sancho in the car, potentially. Somebody says, I wouldn't mind Weghorst coming back. Yeah. Chris says, I stopped listening to the mainstream media. Had Orstein saying Ratcliffe will be in today. He's got 2.5 hours left before the market closes. We'll have to wait and see, mate. I think there is going to be a big announcement, though, in the next 24 hours. The stocks are moving at the moment. I've seen... some businessman in America who's apparently just bought like a huge amount of stocks in Manchester United in the last couple of minutes. So the stock levels are moving. The stock price is up. It's at about $19. It's gone up about $2 or $3 since this morning. So things are happening. Yeah, I mean, even like on all the financial websites, it's saying that the deal is close and that it will be reported very, very soon. So as soon as we get that confirmation, of course, I will go live. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video before you leave. Please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. Let's have a quick read of the poll. So 96% of you wanted Paul Mitchell as the director of football, and the other 4% wanted this Dougie guy, who is the current director of football at Crystal Palace. So there you go then. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined me this morning. Of course, I will be back tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. for your morning show. Please do subscribe before you go. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll catch you all a bit later.